Okay, I'd like to answer a question from Alvaro. Hello, Magdi, how are you? If you don't mind, I'd like to ask you a question. This is a question that has appeared in my mind and it just won't leave me. Here it is. Which is the single one experience by which one knows for sure that consciousness is not produced by the body? Okay, how do I know for sure? What experience do I have for sure that demonstrates that consciousness is not produced by the body? Well, let's contemplate first what do we mean by consciousness. By consciousness, I refer to the non-phenomenal realm that is the reality that perceives this perception right now, the reality that hears these words right now. The words come and go, bodily sensations arise, worldly perceptions arise, but that to which they arise, that, the reality that knows what arises, I refer to as consciousness. Everything that arises, thoughts, perceptions, sensations, memories, feelings, refer to as mind. So let's be clear about that. And what truly perceives this perception right now, we refer to it as I. Yes, we refer to the true reality, the only reality, the one reality that perceives as I. I perceive. I meaning consciousness. Now, there may be a belief and a feeling that I is a body-mind. I is the body. But when you contemplate what is your experience of the body, you will realize that the body appears to you as bodily sensations, as thoughts and perceptions, thoughts meaning memories of yourself or images of yourself, and perceptions, you can perceive your hand, you can perceive your legs. The body appears to what? It appears to I consciousness. So there is an appearance, which we refer to as body-mind, and there is a non-appearance, which is the knowingness, the awareness, the consciousness, that reality that perceives. It's important not to confuse them. Yes? So when we say consciousness depends on the body-mind, we're saying that what perceives depends on what is perceived. In fact, when what is perceived arises, perception is there, perceives it. When what is perceived disappears, perception remains there, unmoved. If a bird comes and lands on the branch, you perceive it. And if the bird flies off, you perceive the bird flying off. Nothing has happened to you. In your night dream, you perceive all sorts of dreams. You travel to different countries, also you meet all sorts of people. You may be a man, and then an hour later in your sleep you're a girl, or you're a bird, or you're a butterfly. In fact, all these images arise to you and dissolve. You remain untouched, unmoved. So it's important to understand that the phenomenal world is constantly appearing and disappearing, moment by moment. But I, meaning I consciousness, do not. So it's important not to mix those two realms. Not to mix that which appears and disappears with that that does not. So how could that does not appear, that does not be unborn, be dependent on that which appears and disappears? What is the logic behind that belief? We're mixing two realms. Maybe an oak tree depends on the sun, depends on the rain, depends on the terrain where it's growing. That's the phenomenal realm. In the phenomenal realm, there are all sorts of dependencies. But consciousness is not at the phenomenal realm. But your question is, how can I know that consciousness is independent of the body, does not depend on the body, is not caused by the body? The body, for example, is, as we mentioned earlier, is thought. Like I remember images of myself, or I think of myself. And that thought is a thought of me as a person, as a body. Body can also be perceptions, sensations. I also perceive those sensations. Now, you know these phenomenal events via consciousness. How do you know consciousness? Do you know consciousness because you perceive a tree? Do you know consciousness because you perceive your hand? Or do you know consciousness directly? When you ask yourself, am I conscious? Do you look at your hand and say, oh, I see my hand, therefore I'm conscious? Or is your answer directly, yes, I am conscious? When you ask yourself, am I conscious? And the answer is, yes, I am conscious. How do you know you're conscious? You know you are conscious directly. Because you are consciousness. Consciousness knows that it's conscious. A tree does not know that it's a tree. A hand does not know that it's a hand. But consciousness knows that it's conscious. Consciousness knows that it is consciousness. So ponder, how do I know that I am conscious? Do I know that I am conscious because I read something about it? Because I heard something about it? Because I am thinking that I'm conscious? Or do I know that I'm conscious because I know directly that I'm conscious? This is your most direct experience of being conscious without having to go to the oak tree, without having to go to thought, without having to go to the body. Also contemplate that between two thoughts, between thought A and thought B, the thought I love my mother and the thought I love New York City, these two thoughts, there has to be a gap. A gap that you don't notice usually, but now that we're talking about it, I'm inviting you to notice there is a gap between thought A and thought B, otherwise there would be one thought. And during this gap, there are no thoughts. But yet you are. You don't disappear between two thoughts. You meaning awareness. Awareness is between two thoughts. It's awareness knowing itself, now that we're speaking about it, knowing itself in the absence of thought. So you have to contemplate these hints and remain open. Loosen your belief structure by contemplating these questions. The belief structure meaning the main belief that I, consciousness, is a body-mind, depends on the body-mind, depends on the fate of the body-mind, is tied to the fate of the body-mind. Well, I think this is a little food for thought. I will share this video with you, and if there are any questions, we can take them up later. Thank you for your question.